So hello everyone, and welcome to Curse of Strahd Thursdays. We are now launching our episode 5, and we have a couple new players. Well, one new player this week, and we also as well have a new character because the Dungeon Master got pretty drunk last week, and some stuff happened off cam and off stream that I will just explain a little bit before we start the game. So last week, the party of Nuru, Hemdriel, or Nice Snow, and Ricky had told their new friends that they met in town, Ismark and Irina, that they would help bury their father, the mayor, the burgomaster of Barovia, up at the church before then leaving Barovia to the west to a town called Vallaki, where Ismark thinks his sister will be safer than here under the watchful eye of Strahd high up in his tower that rests on the cliffs overlooking the town of Barovia. And so they made their way up to the chapel where they found a old priest who was very distraught, and his voice was hoarse, and he seemed to be very exhausted, and he was praying to nothing or no one in particular, but then it was soon discovered that beneath the undercroft of the church there was an entity living below, and it was that the priest's son had been turned into a vampire spawned by the devil Strahd, and the party helped the priest dispatch of the son, who had been living down underneath the church for a year now. Over the past year, the priest had been spending most of his time praying to bring his son back to the light, and from under Strahd's thumb. And he also helped the party bury the burgomaster, I believe. Correct? That happened.
Yes.
My memory is like bits and pieces last week, so if any of this sounds wrong, just stop me real quick and correct me.
He is buried.
Yes, he is buried outside, and I believe holy water or something of the like was put over his grave.
Yeah, and after dispatching of the boy, coming out of the church, a tall, dark, pale man came and paid a little visit to the party, and he introduced himself as Strahd, and he had alluded to knowing one of the party members. He had said that it was nice to see you again, Hemdriel, while he was speaking to Nice Snow, and Nice Snow had some memories flood back into her mind. He then turned his gaze to the bard, and perhaps out of sheer boredom, or perhaps to demonstrate his power to these new people in his realm, with a flick of his wrist or some other lifeless gesture, he killed Ricky, the halfling bard. Ricky dropped dead, his eyes rolling back into his head there at the foot of the church, and that triggered something else in Hemdriel, and she sprouted a pair of ghostly wings, which Strahd then grabbed between his hands, flew her up into the air high above the church, and just let her go. And the wings did not, unfortunately, provide flight to Hemdriel, and she fell
Screaming,
80, 100 feet or so from the darkened sky above Donovich's church onto the floor, crumpling into a heap of pale limp person, and
Yeah. Pale, probably something broken, blood.
So Nuru, Hemdriel is laying there beside Ricky, also seemingly dead as well. You turn and look down the dirt road that leads into the cobbled streets of Barovia, and coming up through the mist is a dark, kind of hulking figure, and he kind of appears at the edge of the dirt road, and he comes closer into view. He looks very scratched up and beaten. He's got a few deep wounds that are bleeding fairly profusely. Rivix, do you want to describe your new character for us a little bit?
Sure. Human, clearly like Barovian tan. He looks like he's from here. Fairly tall, 6'2". Like a bit on the chunkier side. Like brown eyes, black hair. Reasonably attractive, but not super attractive. He's kind of an average-looking but large man.
Did you roll
And
for
he
it?
has a glaive. Yes.
Roll for
9 out of 20.
handsomeness.
9 out of 20, average.
Nice.
Bit below. He's like pretty ragged at the moment. And he has a glaive strapped across his back.
So this person is kind of clutching one of his shoulders, and he's a little hunched over, and he kind of comes in through the mist into view, walking towards you as Hemdriel and Ricky lie there on the floor at the foot of the stone steps of the church. And what's going through your mind right now, Nuru?
Nuru is freaked out. He just saw, one of his companions just died, and the other one, he doesn't know what's going on with her. She's basically at his feet, lying there lifeless. Winks, so much is going on. He's confused, he's upset, he's terrified. Nuru will draw his sword and sort of stand over their bodies.
Yeah, and Ricky's eyes are still open, and his face is kind of contorted into this horrific sneer. And Nice Nose, she looks like maybe one of her arms broke, and like maybe you can see like a little bit of bone kind of sticking up through, not like totally sticking out, but her eyes are closed, and you can see that her chest is still breathing. But why don't you make a death save for me, Hemdriel?
Yep. Also, you would know that the wings that she had have now like curled back into her. So where is that death save thing? This is going to be interesting. Death save is... Where is death save? Just D20?
It's right under your...
It should be towards the top, middle right.
Ah, there it is. Death save. Whoop.
So Ismark kneels down next to Ricky, and he puts two fingers on Ricky's neck, and he looks up at Irina and shakes his head. He reaches down and kind of brushes his palm over Ricky's open eyes, closing them and trying to kind of make his face look less terrifying. And Irina kind of runs over and does the same sort of thing to Nice Snow, but she kind of picks up the arm that looks a little mangled and rests it on top of her body, and brushes like a little bit of dirt out of her hair and off of her shoulders, and she makes a medicine check to try to stabilize you.
Also, I think it's important you know that Ricky's last words were, "What's going on?"
So you don't have to make any more death saving throws. You are unconscious momentarily, for the moment still, Hemdriel, but you have stabilized. But Irina has kneeled down and stabilized you. You can kind of actually feel her clammy hand on your cheek as your eyes then, a few moments later, kind of momentarily flitter open. Fairly significant burst of pain erupts in your arm, and then you kind of go unconscious again.
Pass out from pain.
Veen, you finally make it all the way up to kind of, I don't know how close you would get to the scene, but you see these two familiar faces, Ismark and Irina. You both recognize right off the bat as you come up to the church. But these other 3 people are strangers to you, and one of them looks fairly dead.
Yeah, and the crew has his sword drawn and like pointed at this new person who's walking up to them.
The little handout you gave me said, I know that adventures come to this world often, and are usually just going to die.
Yeah.
So I would shout out at Ismark, Ismark, where is the Burgomaster? I have news to discuss.
He stands and he kind of walks a few steps closer to you, just past Nuru, and he says, we have just buried Father. He had a heart attack. Strahd has been visiting Irina in the night, and the stress of it was too much. So he died 2 days ago. We have put him to rest, and we are leaving this cursed place. We are going to head to Vallaki soon.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Naru's just sort of like, as he sees like Ismark interact with this person, his sword is just going to like shakily drop to the ground, and he's just going to look behind him, basically ignoring this newcomer, and he's just going to look at the bodies of his companion.
Yeah, as you're shaking there with your sword in your hand, just before you turn, you feel the light hand of Irina kind of lay down on your forearm, and she says, I'm sorry for your friend. But
I am too.
But this one will be alright.
I'm also going to stare past Ismark and be like, the devil was here, wasn't he?
Ismark says, yes, you recognize the work of Strahd well, Veen. He was just here but moments ago.
The wolves have been around. I don't know the proper word. Corralled, outside of the city. My brothers and we failed to stop them, and they've been lost. I come to seek aid from the Burgomaster.
Ismark kind of swears under his breath. Fuck. He says, it will be difficult for us to leave with wolves at the gates. Perhaps we should go to the inn after we bury your friend, or their friend, and have a drink and let things settle down. You look like you need a rest as well. Irina could probably apply some bandages to those wounds.
I would appreciate that.
Ismark turns to you, Nuru, and he looks down at Hemdriel, and he says, you helped us bury our father. Now let us return that favor. Let's put your friend to rest. I know that this is probably not the place that he would like to lie, but at this point we don't have many options.
We wanted to be cremated!
Yay, double funerals!
Triple funeral.
So essentially, without going through like 45 minutes of like role playing with the priest again. But go ahead, Nuru.
Well, Naru's going to go through Ricky's things and take back his dagger.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm sorry, friend, but I think I might need this more than you.
Do you also steal his rapier?
Yeah.
Ismark sees the look on your face, Veen, and he goes, he's not going to need those anymore, but we might. He says, you can see Ismark only has like a dagger himself that's kind of tucked in a little sheath. He actually asks you, do you mind if I use that? And he asks for Ricky's rapier.
Nuru nods and just hands it to him without really even saying anything.
I don't know if I had described it last week, but when they got all dressed and ready, when they came downstairs before you guys left, Irina was kind of had like an old silvered breastplate on, and she had like a longsword at her side already.
Ooh.
That
However,
seemed to have been like silvered.
Her father's sword, yeah.
Yeah.
Is Mark still have that bottle of wine?
I think he's packed a few bottles of wine for the journey.
Like the one that he was drinking out of?
Probably, yeah.
Well, like Naru will hand him the rapier, but while doing so, he'll like try to flick it to fling said bottle of wine out of his hand.
Yeah, sure.
Or try to knock it out.
You kind of flourish the rapier and tink the bottom of the bottle of wine. It's actually kind of he's got like a belt loop that has kind of like an open-ended pouch in there, and he's always got a bottle of wine kind of sitting there, and you kind of like scratch a slit in the bottom of the pouch, and the bottle like falls out from inside of it onto the ground and kind of topples over, starts spilling out red wine onto the dirt. And then you flip the rapier in your hand and hand it the hilt side to him. He says, "Oh, you fucked up my pouch.
You've done that.
If you want some wine, you can just ask."
He hisses at him.
Irina says, "Ismark, he is just sad about his friend dying. Have some patience." And you guys still talk the grieving Donovich into helping bury Ricky's body. Once you get him to the ground, would you say anything to the priest, Veen? Would you like?
No, you might want to look at my character's flaws, like just literally the top personality trait.
Okay. Once Donovich puts Ricky in the ground and you guys kind of cover his coffin, he looks up at everyone and he says, "Would anybody have any final words for your friend?"
Quick question. Am I awake now or not?
You've been kind of slumped up against the side of the church, and so you're awake now, but like you're still hurting pretty badly unless somebody has a heal or a potion for you.
Yeah, nice nose there with like a slinged arm,
Yeah.
just like staring over at the grave.
Kind of
and
watching them from a distance. Yeah.
Yeah, and is just still dazed from having fallen so far.
Yeah, you're a little out of it.
Yeah.
But the priest says, he says, "Morning Lord, please take this soul, find him some rest, accept him into your light, if any light is left in you." And Donovich seems kind of dejected with his faith.
Naru will kneel down next to the grave. He'll put one paw on the dirt, on the freshly turned over dirt, and he'll say, I'll make sure someone remembers your story."
Hemdriel?
Yep. I'm sorry.
What would anything be going through your mind with seeing Ricky buried, or?
She's saddened that another died.
Actually,
and that...
one when Nuru kneels down, and puts her paw in the dirt, you have a flash. Memory returns to you, and it's of you in a little halfling village, as a halfling yourself. You see a much younger Ricky sitting at a wooden table next to a dwarf, and they're laughing and reading a book together. And then, when in those few moments when Nuru pulls her paw off the dirt, the memory flashes away.
His
Nice Snow feels very sad and is questioning how she was even a halfling, and is also feeling some form of terrible nostalgia at seeing the beginning and the ends of a person's life.
It was all very vivid and real. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't just some strange memory. You feel like that happened. You were there.
Yeah, she begins to ponder on that memory and doesn't know quite how to take it. And then just remembers Hemdriel, and begins just repeating that over and over, silent, quiet to herself.
Ismark says, well, since we no longer own Father's home, the only place that we can really go and rest is at the inn. So we have a journey to prepare for, but one of your friends is injured, and Veen looks like he needs some rest as well. Perhaps he can tell us more about what happened to him. But I suggest we all go have a drink. It is the best thing to do whenever you survive an encounter with Strahd.
sure.
Veen walks up to the woman sitting on the ground because doesn't know name, and offers her a hand to help her make it to the bar because she looks pretty darn fucking rough.
Quick question: would I be able to roll hit dice or no to heal up a bit after all that?
After like the whole burying ceremony and stuff, I would say sure, that's enough for a short rest.
Yeah, I'll just roll for the hit dice.
Yeah.
So nice. Oh, that divine healing. I'll take that. All right. So that would be. I'll just set that as my total HP.
So I think you can only roll half your hit dice on a short rest.
Really?
Half of whatever your hit dice total is.
I'll look that up.
Maybe I'm wrong about that. I could be wrong about that.
I'm going to quickly double check that while we continue forward.
Sure. Maybe it's you only regain half your hit dice on a long rest. Yeah, I think that's it. I just have it backwards. But Ismark and Irina kind of take up... Well, Ismark kind of takes up the lead. Irina, do you take Veen's hand? Do you let him help you up, Hemdriel?
Yeah, because seeing that her arm is still pretty banged up, she'll try to stand up. And she'll remark, and she'll nod and walk alongside, still tending to her tender arm.
Why don't you make a... Veen, why don't you make just a straight up intelligence check for me? So as you kind of grasp wrists with this person, and you get a little closer, for some reason you feel like you recognize them, but you can't really pinpoint why. You would have no reason to. They're not somebody that you've ever seen really in any recent time here in Barovia, but there's just, for some reason, like, you just have this little flash of insight of like, I've met this person before, or I've seen this person before. Whenever you meet somebody and it's like, you just have that weird feeling, like, why do I know you? It's kind of like that. But Irina also comes up as Veen is helping you up, Hemdriel, and she kind of squatches down a little bit and puts her arm under you as well and kind of gently pats you on the back, and she says, "Come, we will get you some rest." And Ismark leads you guys back down towards the Blood on the Vine Tavern. What kind of music or story do you think they might hear once they start getting closer to the inn, Errel?
Oh, like when they're starting to get there, they're hearing a flute, but it's like not really great. It's like the person who's playing it is a bit naked, and he's telling a story about how he fought off a band of direwolves and saved a bunch of merchants.
And you can hear the voices of the 3 Vistani women that you had briefly encountered in the inn as well. They're kind of laughing and cajoling at the parts of the story, and you hear one of them say, like, "This is the worst flute I've ever heard." And then you guys go through the little double doors of the Blood on the Vine, and you see standing up on a table in the center of the tavern, Errol, if you want to describe your character for the rest of us.
Sure. Errol is a average height man. He's a half-elf. He's got pointed ears. Chocolate skin. He's very prideful in his appearance, but he's probably got a slight bags forming under his eyes. Long, light brown hair, and he wears a white button-up short shirt that is slightly open. He's got very vibrant purple gloves and a purple breeches.
You hear one of the women say, "Come on, sisters, I'm tiring of this one. What should we do with him?" And you hear another one say, "I don't know. I still think he's kind of cute." And the third one says, "Do you have anything besides the flute?"
Yeah, I've got this trumpet, and he pulls out, he rummages in his pack for a bit. He pulls out it looks kind of like a conch shell, and he's like, "Yeah, my mum taught me how to play this. I'm not great at it, but, I'm not too bad."
Hemdriel, what's your passive perception?
14.
So you notice right away that as each of these women speak in turn, anytime they say something, they kind of make a gesture or wave their hand, and you get the sense that they are magically influencing this person who, now that you see a little bit since you've stepped into the tavern, has sweat dripping down his face, and his hair's all like in a big sweaty mess, and he looks like exhausted, and like you get the impression that they've probably been like making him do this for a while now.
Would Nuru notice this as well?
If you have a passive perception of 14 or higher, for sure.
You definitely notice Hemdriel balling up her fists, and her expression goes from contemplative to just angry, and she starts stepping over towards them. And she's like,
he will put like a paw out or a
yeah.
hand out and like rest it on her arm to sort of stop her.
Oh, I would roll a persuasion check to me to see how well this works.
He's gonna whisper, "I'll deal with this."
Veen, did you say that you would you notice as well? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I have 14 passive perception.
Okay, then
as well.
yeah, you would all notice this essentially. Yeah.
So, you still want me to roll persuasion?
Yeah. Because otherwise she will burst past you. All right. You're taking lead. Yeah, so nice to know, like, you can feel as you're, like, touching her shoulder that her muscles have all started tightening up. And she looks over to you, whips, like, a dagger stare, and then, like, slowly her features, like, rotate back. And she goes... And she, like, stays where she is and basically gives you, like, go for it.
You do notice, though, as you were about to kind of charge towards them, Ismark had instinctively started to draw his rapier as well. But as soon as Nuru put his hand out to stop you, Ismark, like he kind of drew it out halfway, and he's just kind of holding it there now. And Irina's kind of putting her hand on the hilt of the sword, and she's saying, "Ismark, no, it is not worth it."
Nuru will. He's gonna walk up to the three women, sort of, not really smiling, but
Yeah, one of them turns and just gives you a crooked grin, and she says, "Oh, you're back. We did not think we'd be seeing you again.
I told you I would return if I could."
You're still welcome to sit and drink with us. I see you've brought back Ismark the Lesser."
Yes, and I see you found a friend.
"Oh, yes, he's been wonderful entertainment. I assume that's why you are now toting around Ismark like your dog."
Yes.
Hearing
I'm
the insults to
growing
the
tired.
Burgomaster, I'm going to draw my weapon.
Oh! As soon as Hemdriel hears Nuru says yes, she's like, she starts getting angry at you.
Well, you see this. You see this man draw the massive weapon on his back, and even though he's a little beaten up and bloody, that also kind of makes Ismark fairly mad. He pushes Irina's hand away, and he draws his rapier as well.
Nuru is going to turn, just quickly glance back and be like, "No, have a." The gesture behind the back.
The same woman says, "Well, at least your dog still has a little bark."
Makes things more interesting.
And one of the other women says, "Yeah, not like this one. All he can do is play the flute very badly."
I've grown tired of entertainment. I've seen more than enough for today, if you would mind.
Oh! Okay.
And as you guys kind of draw their weapon, as you guys kind of few of you draw your weapons and start inching forward towards them, they don't seem to be too concerned by that. They haven't moved for a weapon. They haven't stood or anything. They're just kind of continue to mock Ismark, and as they do so, occasionally one will turn back to the person standing up playing on the table. He's now pulled out a horn of some sort, and they continue to do these kind of subtle gestures.
Is Spig still playing horribly?
Should I blow me on?
Yeah, you can make a performance check.
Yeah, blow me on.
Yeah, he's playing pretty.
Yes!
He's playing pretty.
Yes!
You know, it just is like a terrible bloat, and then the note kind of cuts short and goes sharp. Yeah.
His tiredness has caught up with him.
Nuru is just going to,
Yeah.
he's just going to give the three women a look. It's like, honestly, must we continue to hear this any longer? My ears are sore enough. Please.
One of the sisters says, "Yes, Elenka, I think it's time. I'm tired of this one. We should dispose of him or let him leave."
Why get up and bother yourselves with him? Just let him go. I wish to speak, if you would be so kind.
The two of them look over to the third sister, and she kind of make a persuasion check for me, Nuru. She kind of shrugs, and they all put their hands down on the table. One of them reaches for their wine, and Errel, you kind of realize that the past day and a half or so to you are a total blur. Your vision kind of comes from being this blurry mess and goes in and out and comes into focus, and you feel like your shirt is drenched in sweat. You've got your horn out in your hands. You're standing on top of this table. in this place that you barely remember coming into, and now you see these three women, and across from them a party of more strangers as well.
Oh man, new friends. Proper naked though. And he just drops down onto the table where he is, and he just starts pulling at his shirt the way you would when you're trying to fan yourself.
Mm-hmm. So Veen, I'd like you to remember that you do have a home somewhere in town.
I was going to mention that.
Ismark sheathes his rapier back in, and he starts to walk past the three sisters over to a far table in the inn. He kind of stops as he gets next to where Errol's collapsed on the table, and he says, "I'm sorry for them. Why don't you come and join us? You, like these ones, are new, I can tell, to Barovia."
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions.
Yes, it's likely that you have some questions that I will try my best to answer for you.
You just give me a minute to clean myself up. And he just starts prestidigitationing his shirt and his clothes to clean the sweat off.
Nice. You give yourself a little sparkle, and Ismark moves to the back of the bar where these two round tables are, and then back to where you found him when you first came into Barovia. Actually, I think maybe he would go sit in a booth maybe with Irina. Nice knowing Nuru. What about you? Are you guys gonna follow along, or?
Nice Snow actually grabs Naru's shoulder, and she says to her, "Those Minarl wretches don't deserve it," and continues onwards.
Like before, like he'll just like kiss back. I agree.
I
But he's
also
going to
assume
go.
Irina's in here somewhere.
Yeah, Irina is. I just hadn't popped her token out.
Also, in your passive perception, you would notice that her arm actually looks remarkably better, and you notice those same like little light veins going across her hand.
Which one you got? I have some questions.
Did you use your divine dice, or did you use your hit dice?
I used my hit dice because I remembered last session I used up my healing hands and healing light to try to revive Ricky, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
But also I used blessed vigor in order to get the temporary hit points.
Cool.
Also, I get back half my hit dice on a long rest.
Yeah.
But I can use all of them per any rest.
Yeah. I just kind of mixed that up a little bit. Do you go and join Ismark and the rest at the table?
Yes, and she's particularly like near Errel, despite not knowing him. She's oddly like just getting close and personal, and is like caring over him. Can she make a? She would like to assess his well-being. She can tell he's tired.
Yeah,
but,
you can make an insight check.
No.
After his bit of prestidigitation, he looks sparkling and new.
And she's like,
sturdy half-elven lad. Yeah.
Would Errol know he was being mind controlled in some way?
At this point, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't seem too bothered by it. He's just kind of sitting there with a calm smile on his face.
I say, Burgomaster, because I assume I would know that like Burgomaster is a hereditary title. It would automatically get passed down, correct?
Yeah. So essentially, Ismark would inherit that title, yeah, he would.
Yeah, and I know that his father's dead
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
Why do we not head back to your home? Perhaps we could rest there instead of with these vile wretches, agents of Strahd.
He says, Irina and I do not ever intend to return to Barovia. We are going to Vallaki, where she will be safe. I must protect my sister now that father is dead, and this place is no place for her. Strahd wants her more than anything, and he will stop at nothing until she is in his clutches. Please, I am not the burgomaster.
As you wish. But by the look of these two, and I point at the pale woman and the half-elf man, these two look like they could use some rest. Perhaps we should still fall back to your home.
He says, the home is no longer ours. I traded it to Bildrath. We don't ever intend to return.
Very well.
When he mentions that their father is dead, Errol looks over at them and goes, your dad's dead. I'm really sorry to hear that. Was it recent?
Irina kind of starts, not like sobbing, but you can see like a little tear roll down out one of her eyes, down her cheek, and Ismark says, yes, a few days ago.
And Errol pulls out a handkerchief from his bag and passes it to her. I'm so sorry. It's rough losing a parent.
She takes it from you and she pats her tear and she says, thank you, you are very kind. I'm sorry for what they were doing to you. They are not nice women, but they own this place and they have powerful friends.
They were just having a bit of fun. Besides, I got to play me horn, and it didn't go well. Got to practice a bit.
She says, well, I think that is more that you were probably just tired than anything else. I'm sure that you play the flute and the horn very lovely, and I hope that we can hear it again soon. But maybe after you've had a rest.
Yeah.
You do look very tired, and you have like these big dark circles under your eyes still a little bit, and like.
I am a bit naked. What day is it? What time is it?
It's well, Ismark says, yes, I know it can be difficult to tell here. But right now it is late morning. We just got done burying our father and one of their friends that fell to Strahd. Soon we plan to leave this place. It might do you well to come with us. It is not safe for anyone here anymore.
And he looks over at Veen and the pale woman. Well, he's not been introduced fully, but he looks over at them and he goes, "Oh, you lost a friend too. I'm so sorry about that. Who's this Strahd guy?"
Dean just speaks up. He is our punishment.
It sounds like a really shit punishment. What did you do?
Ismark
Was
says,
our ancestors?
Ismark says, you could say that Strahd is our master in a way. He rules these lands and everyone and everything in them. He is the night. He is our fear. And he is what is going to be the death of us all one day.
He sounds like a bad dude.
But it should not be this way. All beings should walk free of fear with the right to live their lives as they wish, not some dictator.
Yeah, the pale lady's right.
Sadly, life is not that simple.
Ismark says, the people believe that Strahd is a vampire, that he cannot be killed.
Can I make an intelligence check to see if I know anything about vampires?
Sure.
Alright.
Ismark says that Strahd placed a curse on these lands. What Veen says is right, because our ancestors sinned too much. Many believe that in the night, or in the day, he rests in his coffin deep within his castle, and at night he comes and terrorizes the lands with wolves and more horrible things. He wants Irina, my sister, but I do not know why, and I must get her far, far away from here. I've heard that Villaki has high walls, that they protect their people better than my father could, and that maybe we would be safe there. I heard that they have festivals and a bit of happiness, and they live better lives. It might be a good place for you. And he looks over at you, Errel. It might be a better place for you as well, Veen. What happened out there in the woods anyways? Where are your brothers?
They are lost. It was an ambush.
Well, I've
I
always
don't
thought
know what happened.
that you and your brothers were stupid going out in the woods all the time chasing after wolves. But I'm sorry for your loss. We've all lost too much. Do you want to come to Villaki with us? I know that you would be helpful in the journey. You know the woods well, and I've always thought that you were a good man.
I will join you. But the road west is covered with wolves.
Well,
It will not be a safe journey, to say the least.
none of us are safe anymore. None of us have been safe in a long time, but it is better than staying here in the shadow of Strahd. We have to at least try.
Agreed.
I mean, you could kill Strahd.
I laugh.
Ismark does as well.
Nice
And-
Snow hangs her head in shame.
Ismark turns his head to you, Nice Snow, and he says, I heard Strahd call you by a different name than what you introduced yourself as to us. What secrets are you hiding? Why did he know you? I have never seen you before we met.
He called me Hemdriel. I know this name. I feel this name. I do not understand.
He says, "That sounds just like the kind of lie one of Strahd's spies would spit. How do I know that we can trust you now? How do I know that you are not a servant of Strahd sent to watch us, to destroy us, to lead him right into his clutches?"
She pulls out her book and places it on the table. And this is like a tome that has gold filigree and is positively glowing. And when the book is open, it is completely written in Celestial.
I scoff and just say fool.
Ismark says, "Is this supposed to mean something to me?"
Do you know this language?
I doubt it, but I'll check real quick just in case. He says, "The light that this book can produce is impressive, but I recognize not the gibberish written in its pages."
Of course you would not. It is the language of the seven heavens. And it comes from my patron. I do not know why they show me clemency. But no one could bear this book besides me. And she takes it off the table and puts it to her side.
You just need to read the language to be able to hold the book?
No. The
Wow.
language is just a means to understanding what its relevance is.
Oh, so you're like a chosen hero or something. Like from the stories.
And she looks at you and be like, no. And then she looks to the
Totally
side.
off.
And then she looks to the side and goes, am I? and then she goes, no, but your priest would understand.
Ismark says, "Well, everyone here, every creature, every person, every tree serves Strahd. You just said yourself that you serve something.
I do not serve it.
You said you have a
I am
patron.
bound to it.
Well, this land is bound to Strahd. Why should I trust you? Why should I trust the words that you say?"
If I was an agent of Strahd, why would I be accosted and mutilated as I was?
Because that is Strahd treats all things, even his toys. That is just the sort of deception that he would employ to make sure that we accepted you.
Believe as you will. And and she gets up and walks off and is perturbed by his accusations.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't even defend herself. She just walks off after that.
As as you stand up and you're walking off, Irina says, "Ismark, you are being too cruel. She helped us. She helped bury our father. She helped Donovich put his son to rest. I know that you're angry, and I know that you just want me to be safe, but you should not be treating these people this way." And for a brief moment, he looks kind of ashamed, but he says, "Irina, they are strangers." And he just kind of like looks down at his wine now that he's set down on the table. Nuru, what's you been up to?
He's been talking to these three women.
Oh, okay, well, how'd that conversation go?
Well, I mean,
I mean,
he,
what do you say to them?
well, he's going to spend some time, like, sort of, like, just, like, chatting,
Mhm.
making comments about, the difficulties of keeping people online at times.
One of as you come and stand by their table, one of them says, "Ah, well, I knew that you at least had the balls to come sit with us." She like raises a hand and gestures for the bartender to come over with a glass, and he kind of waddles over and sets a wine glass down on the table. She takes the bottle of wine off of the table there that's already sitting there. You can see there are like maybe 4 or 5 bottles of empty wine kind of piled around in the center. And she picks one of them up that still has some wine in it and pours you a glass. And she says, "You are an interesting creature, not like the ones that we get. You're a little different than most of the visitors we see."
I'd prefer a different drink if you don't mind.
And she says,
Not that I am flattered for your courtesy. It's just I do not.
"Well, what would you like?"
If you have water, that would suffice.
She
A
nods
bowl of milk, please.
and gestures again, and the bartender brings over a glass of water. He just waddles up, sets it down on the table, not even really in front of you, just kind of near the edge, and waddles away.
I was wondering if you might help me with something. I don't really trust the what's over there to give me a sufficient answer. You seem like much more knowledgeable people.
She says,
Okay.
we do know a thing or two, that is true. Well, ask your question and perhaps we will answer. I do kind of like you."
I kind of like you too, if you don't mind me saying. He pulls out the 3 pastries that he purchased from Ramilda out of his, and he places them on the table. I know this must seem like such a boring, but I've purchased these pastries in town from someone, and you must forgive me, but I want to know if there's any else, if these are more than what they seem.
One of the sisters, Alenka, says, "Oh, yes, we see the old woman from time to time rolling her cart down the boulevards of the streets, selling her pastries and offering home remedies to ailments to the people that aren't too scared to answer their doors. No, they are simple pastries. They are very delicious as well."
There's no spell or enchantment on these.
No?
I thank you. I'm sorry for bothering you with such a request, but you must understand, this is a new land for me, and not everyone is. You have to look out for yourself, do you not?
Of course.
And I forgive you. I mean, not forgive you. I must ask for your forgiveness about my companions.
Oh, don't worry. Say, I think that with a little guidance and maybe meeting the right people, you might provide a useful companion.
Oh?
Yes, we're always looking for new people who can keep their eyes and their ears open. We Vistani are travelers, and you look well-traveled yourself.
Well enough.
you should go visit Madame Eva at our camp. I think that she would be very interested to meet you.
I'm fine. I do have to keep an eye on my things.
And she might be able to answer any more questions that you might have. You see, she can see the future.
That is quite a powerful gift.
Well, our people tend to camp at the Tesser Pools west of town. Just follow the road until it forks near Strahd's castle, and take it down to the river. There are signs. It is not hard to miss.
Thank you very much for this information, and for your courtesy. I can tell you are of a different cut than the rest of them.
She says, yes, we have many tricks up our sleeves. Make a perception check for me. As she says that we have many tricks up our sleeves, you kind of feel a hand brush against your leg.
Apparently, that's not the only thing that's going up. Okay. And out of it.
Is it malicious or insinuative?
Insinuative.
And fading out.
Give me that cat dick.
And innuendos in the chat and hashtag Nuru. Okay.
Hashtag put kittens in me.
But kids, actually, it's the opposite way. Continue. And out of it. Back to
Nuru would
seriousness.
be putting kittens
So,
in the
Nuru will
Yeah.
cock his head to the side like, do you have a fancy for exotic?
Always.
I've been through much today, but who knows?
The hand goes a little higher.
Yes! That was the right comment for that.
But good behavior will be rewarded. But you don't seem to be too good, do you?
They all kind of smile at each other. And one of the other sisters says, she is definitely the bad one.
The Rue laughs.
Meanwhile, Nice Snow glares over from where she is at the fireplace, and Nuru having a good time, and she just scowls a bit, and then goes back to looking at the fire.
The sister Alenka that you've been talking to says, well, you are welcome to stay the night if you wish. You know, it is a small inn, so we all share a room.
I'll have to see what my tag-alongs are to, but I will definitely keep your request at the forefront of my mind.
Well, she looks at her sisters and smiles and says, well, it will be easy for us to make room for one more for the night.
We'll see. He'll wink.
And just so you know, like, if you take them up on that offer, it's just going to be essentially like a constitution check to see how well you do. And
Yeah.
disgusted right now.
Yeah.
A constitution
question.
check followed by 3 strength checks and a performance check.
Yeah,
And a
performance
sleight
is
of
probably one of those.
Definitely a slide of penis.
Yeah.
That would be a 1d4 damage.
then it would be followed by a D100 roll for impregnation.
Alright. Alright, enough of that. Ugh.
Okay, so Nuru is going to slowly start
Try
to
and
say,
wrench your way away.
Yeah, they let you get up and they kind of are giggling amongst each other.
I must see if my pet's behaving.
As you stand up and turn, you feel Alenka tug on your tail as you walk away.
Nuru will flick his tail at them playfully
Yeah.
and go to sit. He's gonna walk over to Nice now.
Mm-hmm.
Nice Nose gonna turn to you scowling.
Naru's just going to making sure his back is fully turned from the women so they can't see him, and he's just going to mime gagging.
So we didn't get we only started 10 minutes or so late, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yep, continue.
Well, I was gonna say we're about halfway now, so that's a good place. So we'll stop for our mid-session break. So I'll just swap over to our nice little Be Right Back screen, and I'll just momentarily we'll take a 5 and we'll come back for the remainder of Curse of Strahd.
Hooray for fan service!